Hello, good afternoon. It's Tamara Sweeney from Love Dominates. We have another victim of Montgomery County Court System in Pennsylvania. We have Marybeth, and she's going to explain her experience through the Montgomery County Court System.
Hi, how are you? I was a successful corporate meeting producer when I met my ex-husband. He was a car mechanic, no problem with that. But he always said he wanted to go to college, and no one ever enforced it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, fine, what would you like to go to college for? Nursing, okay. Applications, I won't get into college. So I get him the applications, fill them out. He did the essays. I gave him the opportunity to go to school for nursing, which I paid for. And then when he graduated, he said, oh, I want to be a nurse anesthetist. My sister knew the person in charge of, at the time, Montgomery Hospital, the anesthetist program. And he says, oh, yeah, there's one more space available. Got him in. So not only did I pay for his school, gave him an education, but I also gave him a home and fed him because I was very successful.
And a family.
And a family. Well, this was before. My love for my children began the day I was pregnant.
Sure.
With my daughter, I was 37. And that was for Marissa. And for my son, I was 42.
Okay.
I devoted my time for the children's upbringing solely. I was the primary caregiver. I was the influence in their young lives. Marissa loved her pacifier, developed an appetite for sushi at a young age, was a graceful ballet dancer, and was an accomplished competitive swimmer. Become an accomplished competitive swimmer.
So you sound like a very stable person. It was a very stable environment, and you loved your children.
Yes. Now, Alec,
and you supported your husband.
Yes. Yes. Now, Alec, when I found out I was pregnant with him, I was still busy with my business. I went for my ultrasound, and I was a week early, and they found out that I had to go on complete bed rest in the hospital. So I went in complete bed rest and stayed there until he decided to be born at 26 weeks, a pound 12 ounces.
Jeez.
And
miracle baby.
Yes, yes. And so I could not go back to work to the capacity that I did was working. So I would spend the time going back and forth to the NICU until he was scheduled to come home on April 11th.
Wow.
The day before, I had relatives in from Germany, and we had to go pick up my daughter to go to gymnastics class after we spent the day down at the NICU. And so we were coming home from taking her home from gymnastics, and I was in a deadly car accident.
Oh my God.
My cousin from Germany passed away in the car. I was basically dead.
Oh my God.
And so my cousin, who was sitting in the front seat, who was my cousin's husband, had to be the go-between my daughter, who was buckled in her car seat.
So it was a full car. You had a full car.
Yes. And the first responders. Needless to say, we were all airlifted. I was broken from head to toe, coded 3 times, and they couldn't find my husband because he had 2 jobs at the time. He worked at 2 hospitals, Montgomery as well as Pathology. So they went around the neighborhood and they found out where he was. And so he showed up at the hospital after my whole family was there. And they told him, I'm not going to survive.
Oh my God.
So he basically kind of broke down. And which, maybe I probably would have done that too. But basically I survived. I spent a month at HUP, University of Pennsylvania, and then a month at Bryn Mawr Rehab. They didn't think I was going to walk, talk. I had a head injury. My jaw was wired shut.
And you just had a baby.
And I just had a baby.
So you don't have that attention. You're separated from your infant at that point. Oh my God.
Right. So my sister-in-law said to my husband, you know what? I'm moving in. I'm going to take care of the baby because he's got to come home from the NICU. The NICU said, we'll keep him.
Mm-hmm.
But she insisted to move in. And so she did, my mother, my sister, Everyone moved in to give my ex-husband the ability to go to work and come and see me.
Mm-hmm.
So needless to say, that was very devastating. So then within that time, we made sure that Marissa stayed on the schedule, stayed on her schedule. So back to
how many years are the kids apart?
5 years.
5 years apart. Okay.
And you know what? Alec was born prematurely. He's absolutely fine, despite him being 1 pound 12 ounces. Has grown into a lovable, cheerful, cheese-loving, video-playing baseball player. I mean, if you saw him now, you'd never know it. But I chose to enroll Marissa into private school to take advantage of the tremendous learning opportunities. Marissa always asked for me to volunteer and assist with classes and special events and holidays. She flourished academically as well as socially, and I'm proud of her achievements. Holidays is a very special time. We're Italian. With the extended family, we gather for cookie making parties with aunts and uncles, sing-alongs with cousins, countless summer times down at the beach, and our pool with family, friends, and neighbors. My ex-husband at the time, he took control of me. He said, "You know what? I don't want you to go back to work. Why don't you go on disability?" And
he's talking you into trying to beat the system.
Yes. So
that's great.
He took control.
Okay, I understand.
And
that.
I was very vulnerable at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what, fine, but I still need to use my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your job is our kids. I said, okay, not a problem. I'll make that my job.
And that's not a bad thing. I think the hardest job in the world is being a parent, so either a mother or father. I still agree, and I'm chiming in here, I still agree that one parent should stay home with those children and raise those children, but the parents have to be united on how they're going to raise those kids. That's where most of these problems stem from.
Right.
But go ahead.
So needless to say, I did that, and I remember the end of the one school year, I said, "Oh, Scott, I'm so proud of myself. Both kids made it to the bus every day that they went to school. I mean, they were sick, but I said, I'm so proud of myself." And he just looked at me, gave me a smart look, and said, "Well, what do I care about that?" And I said, "Well."
So now his ego's changing. He's the man, and he's got his wife staying at home and taking care of the kids, and he's controlling you. He's out in the world, and you're at home base.
Right.
Behind
and
those
his
four
job
walls.
his job is just so much more important than taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
He's taking care of lives, people who he doesn't even know.
Right. Not that that isn't important,
no,
but the most important thing always should be your family and your children. That's it.
Right.
Everything else comes next.
Right. So in 2013, my husband Scott and I separated and eventually divorced in 2016 as a result of him cheating with a coworker. He was enjoying his freedom and escapades and did not even want anything to do with the children.
Okay.
So he lived at my house because I told him to leave, and he said, "Oh, well, where am I going to go?" I said, "Well, you should have thought of that before." So he moved into the guest room, but went about his own business. And he, at the time...
So you guys were still civil, living under the same roof?
Not
as
civil.
In front of the children?
No.
Okay, I got that wrong.
Yeah, we were very uncivil. Like, I even had certain places for the kids to go to the neighbors as a safe haven.
Okay. So there was resentment and there was anger there.
And it was all my fault that I made him cheat. So at the time, Marissa was 12, Alec was 7. They lived with me solely for 16 months. One day, right before school started, Marissa spent the day with my mom doing her summer reading report. They went out for sushi, and Marissa said something, "Oh, my dad has something working in the courts."
So you didn't even know until your daughter told you.
Nope. So I came home because I was doing a freelance project, came home from my meeting. That night, Marissa said, "Oh, you know what? I want to go see Dad. I want to go with Dad." I said, "Well, it's Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend. We planned everything around you and Alec, and we're having all your favorite food. No, I want to go live with Dad.
So the brainwashing is starting at this point.
Yes. So then, I said, fine, just go. But before that, I had the children immediately go to counseling so they could deal with their pain and feelings, to go through the process.
And that's what most people think to do, but now I've changed my views because the therapist, you just got to follow the money trail. And in my own experience, the therapists were saying the exact same verbiage my ex was, and it made it worse. For a child at 12, you said your daughter was, and Alec is 5 years younger. They're believing in this professional. They're like God. You know what I mean? So whatever this professional says to your child, that is golden, and that's going to resonate in their minds for lifetime. And in my own personal case, my therapists were telling my children to stay away from your mother. She's crazy. I was never diagnosed. This is all the same verbiage as my ex. But that really has destroyed my kids because they would hide from me. If I ever came up to the house to see my kids, they'd run into the woods or they would scatter into the house, hide in the bathtub. I mean, it was like I felt like a disease being around my own children. So I'm going to chime in, and I apologize for interrupting, but keep going. Tell about the court, how you went through the court system.
After 6 months, because Scott eventually started to come back into their lives because his girlfriend wanted him, suggested that he did. So about after 6 months, my daughter started to reject me, showing me disrespect, talking half-truths about our activities and making me look sinister, claiming that they were never, that we never had a good relationship. And her memories of her early childhood with me were completely forgotten and discounted as lies. Her feelings to dislike and falsify memories extended to our extended family, who was always there for her, my mother.
So she was alienated now, not only from you, but extended family.
Right. Okay. My mother, my sister, my brother, my two sisters, my brother, all of her cousins, that were all happy times. Scott's own brother, who Scott does not even communicate with him anymore. She does not speak to him. And
so the alienation, I'm just picking this out, your ex had alienation between him and his brother. So there's the generational alienation. And now he's bringing it into his own family and doing it to his own children, which is horrific. It's right. The people that aren't in it don't understand it, but when you're in it, horrific is the only word I can
exactly
really come up
with.
And
if I think about it, this is what his father did, because his father physically abused his mother. His brother and he witnessed it. She finally got up the nerve to divorce him. His father totally left the area and never spoke to any of his brothers or sisters, and they became alienated.
Yeah.
So
it's generational, and it's learned behavior. So he learned that from his father. So it's not even Scott's fault, but Scott needs to be a man, step it up, learn from the mistakes in your family, and not to do that into his own family, because you're only harming your own children. And now these children have these behaviors that will, bring it on to their own kids.
Right. So
the alienation starts, and now you're probably going into the court system?
Well, yeah. Well, Marissa's father's narcissism and controlling stranglehold of her thoughts and memories eventually convinced Marissa to live with him full time, thereby accelerating the rejection and hatred toward me and my family. The mental system, failed mental system.
Yep.
You try to overcome rejection. I received from my lawyer and demanded to Scott that we should seek counseling from Marissa. I was vulnerable. We went with someone that his friend's wife suggested.
Was it court appointed or
no?
just
We decided to go with.
So he's controlling the situation.
Right. So we went to it. It was supposed to be between Marissa and I. I was never invited into the room. Long story short, I was spending money, and not getting any results. So I had her removed. And at the end, I find out this wasn't her specialty.
Never is.
So
follow the money trail.
Right, right. So then we got a court-appointed reunification counselor, because what is a reunification counselor? In the meantime,
first of all, you weren't even the problem.
No.
And they're calling it. This is what kills me. They sit there and they make you look like the bad person, and you don't have a relationship with your daughter. Yes, I did have a relationship with my daughter until you ripped it apart, until you were the one who brainwashed them. But now I have to do reunification because of this person, Scott. Now I have to do reunification, but reunification never works.
No. And in between there, I went to a parental alienation specialist, Dr. Pila.
Oh, I don't know that.
She's right in King of Prussia.
P-A-E?
P-I-L-L-A.
Pila. I don't know that name.
And she was very good. I mean, I learned a lot about parental alienation from her. Mm-hmm. But she wouldn't go to court for me. So, she
actually is probably a good person, because she wouldn't go to court. That
right.
means the judge was telling her to do something and she didn't want to lose her license. That's
right.
what that tells me.
Right, exactly. So anyway, so we got a reunification therapist. I was not allowed to drive my daughter.
For what reason?
From my ex-husband. I was not allowed to drive her.
Did you have any injuries that made you incapable of driving a car? State didn't take away your license?
No.
But Scott knows best.
Yes.
Sorry.
So,
go ahead.
So then after about three times going there, she told, he said to her, well, what would happen if your mother died? She says, I don't care. I would not care.
That is the severe level of parental alienation, where they make the child have no empathy whatsoever.
Right. And she just was completely straight-faced and said that. And she said, and you know what? I'm not going to do anything until I'm 18. I'm not going to even...
He's already dropping the seeds in her head.
Right. So, right there. And then he wrote a letter to the judge.
Ex parte.
And...
Not allowed to do that.
Well, he's saying that I can't do this because it's parental alienation. And the judge wrote back, I gave you a job. Complete it.
Wait a minute. First of all, he can't write to the judge. He can write to the Pathology's office, but he can't write a letter, dear whoever your judge was, Judge.
Well, no.
That's ex parte.
Well, no, it was within a certain time period. We had to come to an agreement.
Okay.
So he wrote it at the end of before the end of the time period.
Okay. But still, I mean.
But for the judge to say, I gave you a job.
Yeah. So in other words, you're talking behind my back.
Yeah. All right, so failed legal system.
Yes, failed legal system, especially in Montgomery County.
It's extraordinarily slow, inept, ill-equipped to observe and deal with active and hostile parental alienation issues. The courts seem to have great tolerance for allowing disregard disobedience regarding custody stipulations. Marissa's father held Marissa hostage for me for the past 3 Mother's Days.
How many years has it been altogether?
It's going on 4.
Going on 4 years.
Refuses me to allow her, refused me to allow her to drive her to appointments. And issues and expresses to her that I'm causing him financial distress by paying. He has to pay me more than half he makes. And manipulating him to her that I'm evil. Now, let me just say.
First of all, you're not supposed to get a child involved.
Right, and she's very involved. First of all, I'm on disability because he fought for that. Mm-hmm. He makes a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So,
and you supported him in the very beginning.
Right.
You put him through college, and here he is not helping you at all.
Right. So, when we went back to court, I had to pay him back the child support that he was paying me for Marissa.
That's what they're doing to me right now. That's exactly what they're doing to me right now. I have had, in my case, not to switch the story, but it's comical because we're in the same court system, is, I'm going through the divorce. I had 5 lawyers. I paid tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
The second lawyer tried to sue me. Now the third lawyer is suing me, but they write up your divorce decree to make it look like the wife is going to make out.
Mm-hmm.
So, or the targeted parent's going to make out. So they sat there and said, you're going to make 65% of the house once they sell it. But now the third lawyer's suing me for the money, the exact amount that I would get back in equity in that house. So it's all behind the scenes. It's all a theatrical show. They already know everything's premeditated before you even go to a hearing.
Yep.
You just sit there, and they all. What amazes me is these people can sit in robes, can sit there and be an actor and pretend that they're doing right for you. In the meantime, every single lawyer is harming you. They know the outcome before you even go in there. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, tens and thousands of dollars that I've spent with my lawyer. She represented me, but you can't represent someone you can't go against someone who's a narcissist.
Well, she can't go against the judge. So
right.
The judge already made the decision and told the lawyer, this is how you're doing it. Right. End of story.
Exactly. Unbelievably, I had to pay 100% of the reunification counselor. And I get 0 support now for either child.
Mm-hmm.
I get $2,000 in alimony, which will end next year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all I get. So
if we took the money out of this, okay, if there was no money involved, do you think your ex would have at that point been able to co-parent like a normal parent? And be like, okay, well, you have him 50%, I have him 50%, and work out a schedule?
Yes. And see, that's
bingo.
That's his big thing. He is so into money because he never had money. And not that you have to have money to understand it, but for him, money is what makes you.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a narcissist's image. I have to be respected. I look like this big man because I make money. I can tell you this, money doesn't buy love. Money will never buy love. So a story like this is perfect. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this story. I know it happens in all the court systems worldwide. It is the family court systems it's a $50 billion business. It's an industry, and the lawyers own everything. We have no rights. They're taking away our civil rights, our human rights. They take away your soul. I mean, it's soul murdering what they're doing to these children.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to let Karen end this. Go ahead. I see that you have a little bit more.
Living without my daughter in my life hurts my heart terribly. So many important mother-daughter moments, milestones have passed without me being there for her. Small sampling, first day of high school. Her swim meets. I was asked by her, don't come to my swim meets, you cause anxiety.
Oh my God, I got the same thing.
Exact
words.
Talking about her first boyfriend. She just turned 16, celebrating her sweet 16. I made her a photo book, got her 2 balloons at the dollar store. They bought her a 1 in a 6 balloon,
mm-hmm.
spent money on it, and I decided to not look on it on social media. My sister said, oh, are they the balloons on social media? I broke down and said, oh no, let me see. And it was the 1 and the 6. And it really upset me. It broke my heart.
It's not so much the balloons. It's how can they celebrate without their mother? How do you cut a parent out of your life? Like, I still can't comprehend that. I don't understand it. You were a good mom. You were there. You supported everything. There is not one thing. You have no record. There's no history of crime, no history of beating, no history of drugs. And, she doesn't get to see the child that she birthed. I mean, that to me is more than cruel, more than evil. But I do believe God, and I do believe karma.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
going to come back to bite him.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, still every night, because of the rejection, I say my prayers, good night to her, and I hope that someday the nightmare ends. I don't know if the pain will ever end, but friends who have observed Marissa afar during this have commented to me that she's a shell of herself when she's in the presence of her father. Once she's beyond that grasp, she becomes herself, a warm, loving person. And that just makes me happy that everything that I've taught her, she at least is still being able to, is a value to her, but not in front of her father.
Well, she can't. She's in fear of her father. She can't show her feelings towards her mother, which is pretty sad. It's childish, actually.
Right. And unfortunately, I can see my son Alec being pulled in the same direction, and I pray every night that to protect Alec and I, that not to experience the same misery.
I'll tell you my experience with that. I had 3 that were alienated from me, and then the one I was allowed to see. I mean, what judge orders that? You're a bad parent. You can't raise any of your kids, but I'll give you one.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're a bad parent, but I'll feed you one. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So I had him, and I feel so bad for my children, because especially for him. And mine had open heart surgeries, but think of what that child goes through. He gets to see his mom and his dad, but his other siblings don't get to see the mom. The other siblings hate their mom so much that they would murder her. It's that bad. So when he's with me, when he would come in, I'd have to have him cool down. It would take him like 3 days before he would relax. I'd get him to relax. He'd come down and be himself, and then he'd go back home. And then when he goes back home, he's got to hate me, never bring up my name, just have these awful feelings. And then again, when they come back. So the last child has a lot to deal with. A lot to deal with. The other ones, it's easier for them. They cut me out. They pretend I'm dead. Even though I'm alive, they pretend I'm dead. So I try to think of the child's view and what they're going through. And he's going to have to choose. And you should never have to choose. You should love both parents. But he's going to have to choose. Do I want to have a relationship with my sibling? Or do I stay with my mom because I don't want her to be alone? Or, I mean, these are all thoughts that the children are going through. I actually stayed as the target because narcissists, the one thing they do is they fuel off of, it was me. I was always the target. So I've kept the target on me. So he doesn't do it to my children. So it's a balance. It's a struggle. It's a hard game. And I never played games in my life. I don't even know how to do this, but I've learned now what you have to do to the narcissist. But I'm keeping the target on me so he doesn't do this to my children. And it's awful. Other people say, let him do it to his children. Then the children will figure it out faster. But for my kids to go through that kind of violence and the head games and the chaos, nah. I'm afraid he'd push him over the edge. Well, but anyway, do you want to say, I'm going to open this up because I hope the truth comes out. I hope your kids get to see this video because we're going to put this on social media. So you don't have to say her name, but I mean, if you want, you can send a little message to her.
Oh, Marissa, I love you, and I'm always here for you. And I will welcome you back with open arms.
That's a mom with unconditional love. Well, thank you very much. This is Love Dominates, and anybody else that wants to tell their story, or especially anyone that's in Montgomery County, I am doing these stories every day. So contact me through www.lovedominates.com. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.